You are listening to the Postcast presented by the Locked On Senators podcast and our good friends over at the Glebe Central Pub. It's your neighborhood pub in the heart of Glebe. Great food, great drinks, great people. Check them out at 779 Bank Street in Ottawa and let them know the Locked On Senators sent you. I'm Brandon Piller, joined by Jack Richardson again in this version of the Postcast. And Jack, I'm sorry, but unfortunately, the losing streak with you on the show continues. Although this was a much better effort, and we set the bar at one goal scored since your last two appearances were shutouts. They got the one goal, but ultimately, it's a 2-1 loss on the road at the hands of the St. Louis Blues. Jack, this one felt a lot different than the 7-0 loss, obviously, and the 3-0 loss to the Nashville Predators, because the Senators, they pretty much dominated this whole game, don't you think?
They really did, and they looked like a completely different team from the weekend and last week, like you mentioned. I do just want to point out to everyone, I'm not a curse. This was kind of a last-minute little plan here for me to jump in. It wasn't
Doesn't
predetermined.
that prove you are a curse, though, because this wasn't even planned and they still lost? Or how are you
They,
spinning this? I want to hear
well, I'm
this.
spinning it like if it was planned, they were destined to lose, but because it was a
Gotcha.
last-minute thing,
They
that's
were
how
going
I'm
to
going
lose
with it.
anyways.
I'm
Yeah. Okay.
coping a little bit, but man, it bites because Bennington just stole the game. Like the Blues looked
Yeah.
so bad. They look so bad. And I think it's a mix again of the Blues playing poorly and the Sens just really turned on the pace in the second period. And it was impressive to watch. I didn't really know they had that in them.
Yeah, it was like to go from that 7-0 effort to this effort is miles different. And this was a situation similar to Colorado where the St. Louis Blues, despite where they've kind of had a rocky start and haven't really climbed up the standings or been where they're used to being standings wise, this is still a really good team. And they have some big injuries right now. When you look at Ryan O'Reilly, I know he's having a down year as well, but ultimately that's your captain and he's a pretty good two-way guy. No Torrey Krug, a couple of other guys missing on the back end. So this is not their full roster either. And this could have been an opportunity for the Senators, who are coming off a terrible loss, to pounce on a team with injury trouble that's also kind of a middle of the pack team in Brady Tkachuk's hometown. I'm sure the family was there. I didn't see any shots of the Tkachuks, but they're always there in St. Louis. So this is one of those games, Jack, where I'm gonna pull the dad line. I'm not mad, but I am disappointed here that they can't get a win or at least 1 point.
Yeah, this again, we're going right back to November. This feels like a bunch of games where, the 6-on-5 play, they just don't force an extra point. And those are the points that add up at the end of the year. Look at Detroit. I think they have like 8 overtime losses or something like that. The
Yeah,
Sens
they've
only have
got a
3.
bunch.
And that's assuming the Sens are going to lose in overtime. Like you get to the 3-on-3, anything can happen. So it's unfortunate they couldn't force that. I felt more confident as the game went on that they were going to tie it.
Yep. So
Just
did
the
I.
way it was rolling, and we'll get into the scoring summary and everything. But there were some highlights and some lowlights early on, I think, for the Sens for sure.
Yeah, well, let's unfortunately get into some of those low lights as you mentioned. We'll get into the scoring summary here. And the Sens, you could tell they were playing guilty because they came out flying. Like I think they were out shooting the St. Louis Blues like 5-0 or whatever. And I believe it was the Blues' very first shot on goal. Do you know if it was that the one that ends up sneaking by Talbot? If not first, the second, because
Yeah, yeah.
I remember looking at the score clock and it was 6-2 shots in the Sens' favor and 1-0 St. Louis. So it doesn't take much for Cam Talbot to kind of get thrown off here, as this one isn't really a massive play. Like Rosen just drives the zone. He goes wide. He slides it over to Jake Neighbors, who I found myself noticing a lot of Jake Neighbors in this game, whether it was shots on goal chances or physical plays. He gets into that fight with Kelly we'll get into later. But he slides it over to Neighbors out front, and Neighbors does a good job just out battling Hamonic in front. Hamonic's not able to lift his stick, and he tips it past Talbot through his 5-hole there, and that's 1-0 already. But even at this point, Jack, like I was pretty confident that this wasn't going to be kind of a back-breaking goal. Like we talked to Mark Mathot today, and he was like, you don't want to get scored on early on and have these guys with kind of fragile mentalities after a 7-0 loss have their mentality or confidence shaken even more. But even with the Blues going up 1-0 here, I didn't think like, oh boy, here we go again. Like the Sens are going to crumble. It still seemed like they had possession for most of the time here, and they were in control of this one.
It's funny because I was kind of the opposite.
Oh, really?
I was
Yeah.
like, here we
Okay.
go
Go
again. You
go into
know,
it.
I was like, I thought it was a great, not even a great start. They were kind of just carrying the play a little bit, nothing
Hmm.
crazy offensively. And then that play happens where it's Hamnick doesn't lift a stick, and then Talbot lets in a weak one. It's kind of again, like I said, the November Sens kind of thing where
Yeah.
everything went wrong. I wasn't thinking the game was over. Obviously, I'm just like this is just uncanny. It's the same thing every time. Yeah, I mean they didn't sag after that goal, and then obviously the second one, which we'll get into, but I wasn't doom and gloom. I was just like this is the same thing I've seen again. I think I tweeted out that we've seen this story 23 times. Now it's 24 because they have 24 actual losses.
Yeah, just like a eye roll facepalm type of moment.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
really, this is how we're starting things off here, and yeah, that's definitely tough. And look, we're a hashtag goalie friendly show here, but this is going to be in 4 games if you count Seattle, Arizona, Colorado, and this one. 3 of those games, there's no excuses for how these goalies have played, and they've been a major contributing part to why this team has lost. Like Seattle, both goalies get in that game. They're both terrible. I mean, that's all you can really say when 8 goals happen. Colorado, Forsberg's in there the whole time, 7 goals. You're not going to find me standing up for a goalie letting in 7 goals in the 7-0 loss. Even I can't spin that positivity, no matter how hard I would try. And then in this one, that first goal is a weak goal. Cam Talbot's got to have that. I know that's one maybe where you want Hamonic to outbattle a young kid like Jake Neighbors out front, but still, you can't be allowing those ones to slip through you that early. And then this is the backbreaking one, the game-winning goal. Literally, this is what decides it. The Blues dump it off the boards, and Chabot can't really handle it here, but I'm not going to spot like this and kick Chabot while he's down here. You would have liked him to corral that puck a little bit better, but he doesn't. It's okay. Not a big deal. Achari gets past him, and at that point, Chabot knows Talbot is coming out to play the puck aggressively. So he actually holds back a little because he needs to give Talbot some space to do something with it. Talbot goes to do something with it, and he ends up doing nothing with it and whiffs on it completely. And that's going to be one of the easiest goals Noel Achari ever gets, as he just puts it into the empty net there, and it's 2-0. Jack, at this point, are you not only saying, "Oh no, here we go again," but maybe this game is in serious trouble as it's 2-0, or did you still feel with the way the Sens were playing that 2-0 wasn't unsurmountable deficit to come back from?
I don't know if it was insurmountable. I was pissed. I was like, this is ridiculous
Yeah,
that we're
it
seeing
was
this
tough.
again. It's like again, remember against the Avs, I was like, this is almost comical. Like it was one of those ones you're like, what else can go wrong? It felt like that again when that happened. Now, I'm not a goalie, obviously. You and Ross were. Do you if you're a goalie and you're watching your like the guy you're playing against, the other goalie, obviously there's a mental thing there. Like if you see them playing well, you want to play better. So what I noticed the Sens doing all night, there are a lot of dump and chase, and I think more than usual because it's probably something about pre-scouting on the Blues. Binnington's going out to stop that puck every time, so I think
Mhm.
he's a pretty good puck handling goalie. Talbot isn't. He's not known for that. Do you think if you're Talbot, he's going out and trying to maybe not be fancy, but gets in his head a little bit because the counterpart across the ice is playing the puck so much that Talbot's got to be like, okay, I can put on a little bit of a show here too. I think there's got to be something to that because, or maybe even just mentally, that's why he messed up because that's a routine play you see every single game, and you just can't explain it.
Yeah, I mean that could be a factor. For me, this one wasn't really like, even as a goalie, Jack, I get frustrated sometimes when it seems like the goalie's going out of his way just to play the puck, just to do it. Like, just because he's like, I can play the puck. I'm a goalie that can do that. But on this play, I didn't feel like that only because it really seemed like Achari was going to beat Shabbat there. And if you're a goalie on one of these plays, you have to make a decision whether you're going to be aggressive on that or not. And you cannot hesitate. Like, I would rather a goalie, no hesitation, make an aggressive play and have it blow up in his face rather than go out, hesitate, be like, oh crap, no, I don't want to do this. And then you're in no man's land. And then the guy just gets around you one way or another, or you have to make a ridiculous diving poke check or something like that. So, as far as the play decision goes, I don't have an issue with it. But look, obviously, Talbot's wanting to get that. That's one he's going to want back. But that simply is unacceptable for an NHL goalie to miss that. Like, and look, again, I don't want to kick him while he's down. It's been a couple bad starts. The first goal was a weak one, but that's one that I would say Talbot's been a guy that's been able to steal a couple wins for this team, but I think he's got to wear the L on this one because that does end up being the game-winning goal. And if he does something where he goes to sweep that puck and maybe it hits Shabbat or it hits someone and then that turns into a play, that's one thing. But you need to make sure you make at least contact with it and just pray that it doesn't end up being a bad play where when you miss contact with it pretty much completely, that's on Talbot. Talbot's got to wear that one. And as a veteran, I think he knows that. And I think people are a little bit, they're very safe with goalies. Like, oh, no, like the team had to play better, et cetera. But the team played great in this one, in my opinion. I thought the D-corps played great. Even despite a bad penalty at the end by the fourth line, I thought the bottom six did a really good job forechecking, not allowing the Blues to get through the neutral zone with ease. The top six had a number of great chances. So, I know we're a hashtag goalie friendly show, but this is becoming a trend where no matter who is in net, whether it could be both of them, they're causing this team major issues and they're not giving this team a chance to win games.
Well, that's the problem. You mentioned the Kraken game. I think that was the first bad one because I can't remember the game before that, but I believe it was maybe Columbus or something.
I got the schedule here. It was Columbus. Yeah.
Okay, so it's Columbus.
That's a shutout for Forsberg.
Right. So they come off a high, and Forsberg starts against the Kraken. He gets pulled early because of a few soft ones. Talbot's probably even worse against the Kraken. So that's a wash. And Talbot comes in the media after that, and he says, "Look, we need to own that, and we're going to be better." I'm like, okay, let's rinse, repeat. Like, that's nothing, just one bad blip. Then you go to Nashville, Talbot starts. He's out-dueled by Saros. And, Saros was perfect, obviously. Talbot had, I think, one soft one, and we did the post-game after that. Yep. And I remember saying, I'm not going to blame it on Talbot, but he wasn't good enough because he let in 3 goals still. So then you go to the Arizona game, and Forsberg is not the better goalie in that game. And they let in 3 goals, and including a soft one that made it tighter than it needed to be at the end. And then Colorado, it's 7-0, and now this. So we're going from a place where, the team is struggling, but so are the goalies. And goalies need, it's an unfair position because, you live and die by your goaltenders. And if they're not up to the task, the team is going to struggle. And this is one that Talbot, you mentioned that he's won them a couple of games. This is one that he lost them, unfortunately, just the way that they played. And now we'll get into offense and all that, but you're not going to win a game with 1 goal. But realistically, the way this game went, it should have been a 1-0 game for the Sens.
Or at the very least, you send it to overtime, right? Like they're right there. So that's tough. And it really raises a lot of kind of red flags around when you have a tandem of this, like veteran goalies. It was supposed to provide stability. If one guy's not going, oh, well, we can lean on the other guy for a 5-game stretch if we have to kind of counteract if one guy is playing poorly. But now you're at a stage where neither guy can kind of figure it out. And a little while ago in December, we were at a situation where I don't care who DJ Smith names starter. I think both of them have a chance to win. There's no wrong answer. Now I think there's no right answer. Like, I don't know, like who are you going to start next game? I have no clue. You could tell me one guy or another. I would argue reasons why neither of those guys should start. Like, that is a tough place to be in. And especially, look, I'm not saying I disavow the Talbot trade or anything, but it is tough to look over there and see Philip Gustafsson playing really well. Again, I think it was still the right move, but it is tough when that is the scenario.
So this is a bit off topic, but on Gustafsson, did you see Billy Guerin's comments yesterday maybe about Gustafsson? Apparently when he was in training camp, he wasn't really in shape, Guerin said. Like and not that it was his summer or anything, it's just kind of what he was. And he said they worked with him to get him back in shape. So that's interesting to me that he wasn't in, goaltending shape. I'd imagine you got to be, it's different physically for a player than it is for a goalie. Obviously, you got to be way more flexible and all that. But it's kind of like, it's crazy to hear that. Obviously, Gus is having a great year, but you can't tell me that he'd be having this kind of year in Ottawa, because like,
That's
you
the
just
thing,
never
right?
know. Goalies are such a, it's voodoo, man. I don't know.
It's tough, that's for sure. And especially that's interesting because you would think Gus, like, he had a lot of high hopes in Ottawa, and then they trade him to a new franchise where he knows he's the number two. It's not like Ottawa where there was at one point there was Forsberg, Murray, and Gustafsson. And it was like, what are we doing here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
He goes to Minnesota. It's obvious you're going to be the backup for Fleury. You got a new chance here. You think he would be in best shape of his life in training camp, as the old saying goes, but apparently not. I guess didn't matter for a young guy like that too much here. And this is something we can get to after we're done the scoring summary and Sens Central standing. But again, it Sens fans in Van. Pretty sure it's Vancouver or a van down by the river, unconfirmed yet. But he says, thanks for the donation also. He says, astonishing power play decisions. More sandy, less shabby, question mark. That's something we're going to get into as a little topic to discuss after we're done wrapping this one. But we got to let you guys know about our good friends over at the Glebe Central Pub. I am so fired up to get a chance to host a live show at the Glebe Central Pub. We're going to get that in the works for the Neil jersey retirement game. But in the meantime, you can head there for all your Sens games. We know they're going to have the Sens game on TV because they are Sens fans just like me, Jack, and all of you guys. They have shuttles going to so many of the home games. It's $15 for a ride to and from the game. And best part is you can get your food in, get a couple drinks in before the game. Shuttle takes you there. Keep it going. Get some fries, a poutine at the game with a couple Molsons. Then head on the shuttle back and live it up, hopefully, after a win at the Glebe Central Pub. So check them out at 779 Bank Street. They are the official Postcast sponsors, and let them know that the Locked On Senators podcast sent you. All right, guys. So it's 2-0 at this point, and the second period, this is where the Ottawa Senators, I thought, really kept kind of pushing the pace here. Although I like the idea by Parker Kelly here to try to pump up the team, but we talked about Cam Talbot taking an L. Parker Kelly's got to take an L on that fight with Jake Neighbors. Like I mentioned, Jack, Neighbors was a guy I kept hearing and seeing, and I'm like, man, I know we covered his draft profile a little while ago, but he's really looking like a good player for the Blues. They're able to find these guys, and I mean, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou are perfect examples of their drafting developing, but not a good fight for Parker Kelly here, as right off the hop, Neighbors gets his bucket off and just feeds him and then gets the takedown. And that's actually Jake Neighbors' first NHL fight. So I like the effort by Parker Kelly here, but as Ross tweeted out at Sens Central, it really seemed like that Parker Kelly fight was how Sens fans were feeling recently, because you were just getting beat down here.
Yeah, he got absolutely shelled. Like, there's no other way around it. It was weird though,
Yeah.
because he kind of stumbled right when they were about to square off, and then couldn't get set. And then Neighbors, I think he probably was surprised by Neighbors, right? If there's no
I
NHL
think
fights, there's
so.
no book on the kid, so you can't
Yeah.
know how he's gonna be. And I mean, I think if that was Austin Watson, I mean, Sens fans would just lose it, right? Because I think Kelly's had some good fights. He's been pretty good at those through this season at least. And if that was Watson, though, the tweets would have been so funny, because that guy can't win a fight really.
Yeah.
And
Although his last one was a pretty good one.
I mean, the bar's on the floor, right? Like, the
Yeah,
fact that we were
that's
just
fair.
like, look, that was a good one for Watson. But yeah, I mean, you can't fault Kelly, because it helped them. Like, they were really good in the second period.
Mm-hmm.
They used it to their advantage. So that's why fighting, I think, is important in hockey, right? You keep it safe as possible, and that's stuff like that. It swings momentum.
Yep, it allows the players to police the game and have a different way to try to boost momentum. So I'm right there with you, Jack. And that later on leads to the Ottawa Senators goal. And you mentioned the Sens were dumping the puck in a lot. Well, this goal starts from a JBD dump in, and Brady Tkachuk is on the forecheck. Great job by him as usual. He gets the puck along the boards and he slides it out to Timmy, and Timmy just quickly puts it in the net past Bennington there. So that's a nice play where I know a lot of fans are on the the coaching staff and their decision to, hey, we got to dump and chase all the time, dump and chase. But this time it ends up working well with a good forecheck. So what'd you see on that goal as Tim Stützle gets his 19th?
That was the game plan, it seems, right? That they wanted them to get after Binnington, like I mentioned earlier, get in the corners and just kind of, you know, work them down low. And it was working for the last two periods, especially. Like it was way more effective than I thought it would be. And I'm surprised they didn't get more really good looks like that out of it because there was a lot of examples of it. And again, Kachuk on the forecheck is just an absolute animal. And I'm going to throw Batherson in there too because he's a big boy and throwing that weight around tonight. He had his legs going too. Like Batherson had a really good game, and he was part of that forecheck too. And I think he got an assist on the goal actually. So that line connected, and I don't know what else I can say about Tim Stützle. I'm getting sick of saying it myself because he's so good all the time. And he mentioned himself again. He's one of those players who came out in the media and was just like, "Look, I haven't been good enough the last few games," and I kind of agreed. He kind of dipped off a little bit. And then tonight he was a superstar. He was the best player on the ice, I thought. 6 shots for Stützle, and obviously one of them goes in the net for his 19th team leading goal. If I were to tell you
Yeah,
halfway
true.
through the year that Stützle would be leading the team in goals, what would you have thought?
I definitely wouldn't have thought goals. If you would have said points, I would have been
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah,
I can see that. But when you have Alex DeBrincat come in, Josh Norris, and even Brady Tkachuk got 30 last year too, I would
yeah.
not have thought that Tim Stützle would be leading this team in goals. That's for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, that shot too, like I don't know who that clown is who on Twitter, I don't know if you've seen him who's been talking about Stutzel's shot and how it's not good enough. He keeps proving everyone wrong with that kind of release. So we're really happy with that goal and just really unfortunate they couldn't get more than that.
It's very unfortunate they couldn't get more than that because they had a chance here. And like I have a lot of times in my notes where DeBrincat and Giroux were playing as a really good pair here. They were getting a lot of chances and like kind of mixing and matching. Like Cat passing to Giroux out front, kind of deflects off his leg or skate or something, but Binnington gets over there, and then it was moments later where DeBrincat's behind the net and he passes it out to Giroux and backhand. He gets stopped point blank by Jordan Binnington. So the chances were there, and I thought they were doing a really good job to really put the pressure on the Blues. But you got to commend Binnington and the Blues. They held tight there. But I think what may have been the TSN turning point is that Mark Haslick penalty right at the end there. There's about 3.5 minutes left. The fourth line is on the ice. It's a nothing, a non-needed, non-hockey play, high stick, 200 feet away from his own net on Nick Leddy there. And that ultimately, that's 2 minutes where you're going to have to kill a penalty instead of being 5-on-5 and hopefully getting a chance to pull the goalie a little bit earlier. So that was a tough one for me to watch because I'm a casty guy, but that one's really like there's not much excuse for that one there.
No, and high sticking is that one of those ones where if it happens, it's going to get called regardless of the time of the game. And if
Yep.
that's a little hook, maybe he gets away with it. But I was frustrated because there were so many little things on the Sens and a couple of their forechecking shifts. Like they had the puck for I want to say most of the third period, right?
Yeah,
They
they're
were pushing,
dominating
and
that
and
third
it's
period.
kind of surprising that there were no penalties called against the Blues. A lot of scrums in front, and that the fact that that one had to happen is like it's a backbreaker. But obviously, I think the Sens had the puck more on the PK than the Blues did on the power play. So I'm not mad
Yeah,
necessarily. It did just kill the momentum. And the thing that's the worst for me after that is you have what a minute 15 to kind of get your 6-on-5 set up. That's the toughest part because if
exactly.
you're kind of just rolling all 5 lines, the coach or all 4 lines, the coaching staff can put the fourth line out. I think that was going to be their last shift, right? And then you just roll out to
You would
Brinkett and
hope.
Giroux, right? And so it's so tough because DJ is telling them, "Look, boys, go forecheck quick, do what you've been doing all game, essentially." And that's why I tweeted out too at the end of the game, like that the team impressed me and everything. But big picture wise, there's obviously still like a lot of issues. And I think big picture wise would be the bottom six not being effective enough to score a goal.
Yeah.
That tonight was a good game from them. And I think they had 4 shots on goal between all 6 of them, which is like, that's a problem. But uh, that's a later issue. So right now, DJ telling them, "Hey, go out forecheck, get off in 20 seconds," and then they take a penalty. Like it's just you can't really avoid it because you can't run your top six into the ground with
Yeah.
3 minutes left. What are you going to do then with a minute left? So, um, I don't know, man. I mean, again, if that was a guy like Watson or anyone else other than like Kastelic or Kelly, I think there's a bigger uproar. Because like I think a couple of guys have a bit of a longer leash on that
Yeah.
that bottom six for sure.
Yeah, and that's fair. And like with the bottom six, like if you had this bottom six for maybe a handful of games and DJ's just like, look, I don't care about the offense, guys, just forecheck hard and, play a good defensive game. If that's a small sample size or a small survey, that's not a big deal. But we're going on weeks now of that being the case and this bottom six just not being able to do anything. Not really to any fault of those guys. It's just not their game. But when you have six guys where none of them really has much offensive touch, I mean, I guess you could argue Brass a little bit. He's able to kind of score goals and good opportunities, but I mean, barely. Like that's scraping the surface here. So I thought that was tough. And yeah, I agree with you. Like the issue wasn't with the Casty penalty that this team's on the PK. The Ottawa Senators have one of the best penalty killing units in the entire league. So I wasn't at a situation where I was like, oh no, they're going to get scored on now. It was just this team is so goddamn brutal at 6-on-5. I don't want to have only a minute and 15 left for them to try to figure their crap out and try to get some sort of breakout and get possession and a cycle going in the offensive zone when they struggled to do that with 2.5 minutes of time 6-on-5. So that was the real issue for me.
It's funny though because when let's say that they were rolling everything and then they went 6-on-5. I don't think they didn't have a really good scoring chance at 6-on-5, right? They had that one where it went cross crease and then had a play like that could have bounced in.
Yeah,
But they didn't have a solid look. So I think
I'd agree.
maybe the penalty might even be a blessing in disguise in the sense that it's masking how their 6-on-5 is just bad. And they might be better off staying 5-on-5. Like, I don't know,
The
man.
Ottawa
Like,
Senators, the only team that would keep
yeah.
one man down rather
Oh.
than have one man up or two men up, I should say. Even, jeez,
That's the first 6-on-5 though in a long time though that I can remember with a 1-goal lead. Like I think they pulled it in Winnipeg or something. It was 5-1. Like I don't know what he's
yeah.
doing there, but yeah, like they just it kills all the momentum because they just stop moving around and that's frustrating. But you got the best players out there. Well, most of the best players, I think, and we might get into that with the Sens fan and Van comment there that we'll get into. But it's your top dogs, and
Yep.
they just didn't get it done. Didn't have enough time.
So before we get to that question discussion, let's head to our Send Central standouts presented by the Glebe Central Pub. And Jack, I'll hand it off to you. I think you kind of already alluded to who your guy is going to be, but I'll let you give a full rant here.
I'm actually picking a different one
Oh, you're going
because
to pivot. All right.
yeah, I am. I am. I've given a lot of love to Stutzla, but I'm going JBD. We
Okay,
haven't touched
nice.
on him. He was phenomenal tonight. He just looked like he belonged, and I don't think there's any other way to put it because
Yep.
we'll get into Shabbat in a bit, I think, but he made Shabbat look stable, which is not
Mhm.
saying anything bad about Shabbat, but he needed that. He needs a guy who can do that. And for the longest time, I've thought if JBD can find his footing at the NHL level, he's perfect for Shabbat, just the way he plays. Um, I think he's like a modern day Mark Mathot in the sense that he's not super physical because the game isn't very physical now, but he'll just do what he needs to do as a defenseman, and he does it well. He moves the puck extremely well. And that was fully on display tonight. And I was really impressed that he was able to do that in his first game back since December, which was really impressive to me.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. Like I think JBD has the kind of potential to be the perfect partner for Thomas Chabot. And look, this is what this team's been trying to do for years. Pretty much ever since Chabot got here, except that random collection of time where him and Carl had a bit of time when Thomas Chabot first came. Like they've been trying to find a partner for him and they've failed time and time again. Even Artem Zub, you thought would be a slam dunk guy for him, hasn't exactly worked out that great, but his time with JBD, I think has been pretty decent here. So, although I wouldn't mind JBD playing a little bit more time in Belleville with the options that the Ottawa Senators have at right hand D, especially with Artem Zub out, I want JBD playing those top line minutes. And yeah, it's a good game from him. I like that, Jack. He plays 20 minutes and 56 seconds, basically 21 minutes, 2 shots, 5 blocks. I think he looked really great out there. So that's a great Central standout.
And you know what else, just quickly before we get to yours there, his gap control is so good, and
Yep.
it's his positioning. I think there was one shift, and I think it was late second maybe, where he jumps up on the blue line to keep the puck in. They forecheck a little bit, and then it goes back, and I think it's like a one-on-one, and he has to hustle back, gets his stick in the lane, and the puck goes out of play. Just little details like that that seem so simple haven't been happening for the Sens. Even Zub, I
Yeah.
love Zub. Everyone loves Zub. He's not the quickest player, and JBD being able to be solid positionally and also show that, range and speed and stuff is so vital. So I'm really looking forward to watching him for the rest of the way here, because that was the most impressive I've seen him in the NHL by far.
Yep, it was a good game from him. I'm going to stick on the back end here, and this might be a little kind of obscure, but it's just something I noticed. And I'm going to pull a Ross Levitan move and pair a couple people on my Sen Central standout. I'm going to go with the Brandy and Holden pair. I thought they were really good tonight. Like, I've got in my notes 3 or 4 really good plays by Nick Holden, really good defensive plays, breaking up 2-on-1s, clearing the puck out of the zone, playing physical, and then look, I know maybe it's tough to stand here and really make an argument for Eric Branson when he's supposed to be a puck moving defenseman, but he's literally incapable of producing points. It's absolutely insane that he's not able to do that, and he's able to break the puck out of the zone really well, and he's able to get a shot on net, start a cycle, get possession in the zone. So I thought that pair was really good, and I was looking at their Corsi stats for the night. Not amazing, but 46%, so right around 50%, which is where you want them to be. But overall, I thought they played a good game.
I completely agree, and I'll touch on Brandstrom a little bit. He doesn't get points because this team doesn't score at even strength, and he only
Yeah,
plays at
fair.
even strength. Like, he never gets power play
But
time.
you think you would get a lucky bounce or a
I
secondary
know.
assist or
Well,
something?
Pillsy Shabbat has 11 even strength points from the back end this year, and he leads
Fair.
the NHL in even strength ice time per game, and he has
True. Yeah, that's a
11
really good
points.
point.
It's
Yeah.
brutal. So I don't blame Bransford for not having points. Especially, I think he's playing with the bottom six most of the time anyway, right? The other two pairings are getting most of the top six time. So I like that pick a lot. I like the bottom pairing hasn't really been an issue. I feel like it's just been the top right side that has been more of an issue. So yeah, great game from that pairing for sure.
Yeah, the bottom pair has done what they need to do, and now, like, is a bottom pair's performance going to win and lose you games? Not necessarily, but I don't think they deserve to really be harped on here. And Will Scott, this is a double dip. It's a donation to remind me to run more ads. So I mean, I was going to cruise right by them, but producer Ross is getting on me from all angles that he possibly can. So you know what? Just for you, Will, and just for Ross. We'll toss it to one more quick ad. Oh, as I mute myself, don't want to do that for the ads. That's a rookie mistake there. This is something that I use every single morning. And believe it or not, it's absolutely true. It's Athletic Greens because I'm a simple guy. It's tough to stay healthy these days. Jack, all you got to do is take 1 scoop of their AG1 powder, put it in your water in the morning, shake it up, and it's only 300 milliliters, and you're getting 75 high quality vitamins, minerals to start your day. It does so much good for you. It is the way to arm yourself with a great health option right first thing in the morning. It's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's only has less than 1 gram of sugar in it, and it still tastes great in my opinion. For all the value you get health wise, I'm not forcing it down. I'm sipping it and I'm enjoying it, and that's a great way to start the day. So guys, check out AG1 from Athletic Greens today. It's something that it's so simple that I can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Check it out today. Athletic Greens. There we go. We got the ad done. Now maybe Ross will let me sleep tonight. And Will Scott, I'm doing those ads for you. And guys, you seriously, I know it's part of the business, but Athletic Greens is something I try to use every day because it's healthy, and you got to try to stay healthy. I mean, I'm turning 30 soon here. I got to at least pretend like I'm trying to stay healthy.
Hey man, I'm on the grind too. I love AG1. It's a good way to
Nice.
start the day, and it tastes good. You're right. It tastes like pineapple, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. And it was a surprise. I was committed to doing it, and then the taste was really surprising for me. So yeah, that's a good ad right there.
Hell yeah, there we go. All right. Now let's get to that question from Sens fans in van. I'm getting better at saying that. I feel like I fumbled that the first couple of times, but I'm on it now. So he was saying questionable power play decisions, and I think maybe one question that Ross has is, do we need to be seeing so much Jake Lucchini? And we love Jake Lucchini, but for a guy that barely plays 10 minutes of ice time, to be able to squeeze his way onto the second power play unit on this team with so much firepower, how you feeling about that, Jack? You think he should still deserve some time here? I know his first NHL goal was a power play goal, but maybe it's time to switch things up here.
Yeah, that was what, like 9 games ago, 8 games ago. Like, you got to move on, man. Like, and I know it's he was good actually when he scored that goal. The game was nice, and then he just kind of isn't helping that unit anymore. And
Yeah,
it's interesting because they only had one power play tonight, but so the time was pretty much split for the first and second unit. So if you're going to be putting that unit out there so much because the first one's kind of struggling, you have to be able to, uh, have a good second unit despite the lack of depth. Like, throw Brandstrom out there, throw JBD. Like, I don't know who. Like, throw. There's more offensive potential than they're letting us believe by throwing Lucchini, the AHL call up, on the second unit. And I should say AHL call up as in a guy who is an AHL player playing in the
yeah,
NHL. It's not some young guy who's coming up and needs power play time to produce. Uh, Lucchini, and it's not even that he's playing on the top unit and in the front of the net. He's on the flank and he's carrying the puck in on that unit. Like, that's an important spot.
big
I think
time.
you could try anyone else honestly in that spot. And just again, nothing against Jake Lucchini, but I'm definitely on that wave where it's time to move on a little bit.
And that's the thing. I like the idea to get him on there because Jake Lucchini does play top power play time in Belleville, and he is effective there. Cool, that's fine. It worked, but it's been stretched too long here. And the Ottawa Senators, the power play is their bread and butter. So anytime you have an opportunity to cash in, you need to have the best opportunity to do that, set yourself up to succeed. So I think it is time to switch it up a bit. But I mean, the best replacements would be Josh Norris and or Matthew Joseph, guys that aren't available because there's not a lot of great options unless you decide to go two defensemen. Maybe you put Brandy on that unit alongside Sanderson, but I'm not convinced that's the best option. But it might be a better option than what's been going on because they haven't been able to click here. So I think it's tough, but again, look, these are just nitpicking at this point because ultimately this was a good performance by the Ottawa Senators. This was a good effort. If you look at this game, kind of taking that bad goal by Talbot out of it, the Ottawa Senators deserved a much better result here. So I don't know where to go moving forward here with these goaltenders because pretty soon if you're the players you're like, well, yeah, sure, some of the games like 7-0, that's on us too, but when we play that good and we still can't get a loss, like we can't afford to like a 2-1 game we can't get the best out of here. That's tough to stay motivated.
Yeah, I don't know where you go from here. I
Yeah,
almost don't want to watch the media sessions just because it's like I know what they're gonna say. I'm not watching DJs. I know what he's gonna say. Ran into a hot goalie, blah blah blah. And when a fan base starts to tune out the coach, I feel like it's got to start happening in the room. And the elephant in the room, obviously, is the ownership
yes,
scenario. So nothing's happening coaching wise before that gets settled because a Dorion's not gonna. I mean, he could make that as a last ditch effort to kind of get this team going and save his own job.
I think it's too
Um,
late for that now though, don't
oh
you?
yeah,
Yeah,
100%. But also, if you're a head coach out there, why would you sign up to a team that's going to get new bosses next month and you're probably going to get fired, right?
yeah, that's a lame duck position.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
So
you're getting axed.
the
Yeah,
only option, I guess, would be promoting Troy Mann, which I'm a huge fan of, and I think might actually be the play at the end of the day anyway. Because I think Rick Tocchet, my guy, I know we talked about it a couple times, but he looks like he's out in Vancouver. Can
yeah.
we just take a moment for Vancouver? My God, Sens fans in van is in
Yeah,
van right
you
now.
know.
That's crazy. They are just the West Coast Sens right now, but dialed to 11 because you see that press conference today?
Yeah, that is tough. But I mean,
Crazy.
we don't have to get too far into it, but they made
Yeah.
some questionable decisions like
Oh,
re-signing JT Miller when they could have got an absolute haul for him.
yeah.
That Oliver Ekman Larson trade, is looking very, very bad, especially with Dylan Genther looking like he's going to be a legit
Yeah.
sniper in the
Yeah.
NHL. And then adding on to it, the decision to bring in Mikheyev in a big deal at this point, what was that the piece that was going to help the Canucks take a step forward? I wasn't convinced. So,
No.
and now your captain's leaving. Like, oh
Yeah.
man,
Hey, I just like pointing out the worst situations around the league when the Sens keep losing because it makes me feel better. So
yeah,
that's
there you
why I
go.
kind of go to Vancouver. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's like. What do you say to the team? Like, hey guys, go do it again against Pittsburgh, and in two huge games, if you even want to sniff the playoffs coming up here, home and home with the Penguins. Like, you can't
Yeah.
you can't drop both of these and expect to make the playoffs. So this is huge.
And the thing too, Jack, is not only is it huge for the Ottawa Senators, but this is actually huge for the Pittsburgh Penguins that have something to lose here,
Yeah.
as they're in a tough divisional race in that Metro. I'm just pulling up the standings here now. They seem to constantly be changing places. It's a three-way battle here between Washington, Pittsburgh, and New York Islanders. Pittsburgh and the Islanders with 50 points, and Washington with 54. So the Pittsburgh Penguins cannot afford to lose these games up against a team like the Ottawa Senators, especially considering I'm pretty sure, the Washington Capitals and New York Islanders went to overtime in this game. So that was a
Mm,
3-point game with the two teams they're trying to catch up to. So they're going to be looking at this Ottawa Senators team, who I don't know if there's a team in the NHL that I can think of that has a stronger stranglehold over the Ottawa Senators than the Pittsburgh Penguins, like as like two franchises, eh? Like the Pittsburgh
yeah.
Penguins just have the Ottawa Senators number.
We can't escape them. They're
No.
everywhere. Like how many playoff series? 3 in since 2008 or something. So
Yeah.
that'll do it. That'll do it for any fan base. Montreal 2 since then, and oh yeah, I hate the Penguins. I hate the Penguins. I'm
Yeah.
tired of them being good. I like appreciating greatness with Crosby. I don't want to skip over that, but I'm tired of them. I think they need to go. And this home and home is going to be a good chance for the Sens to just kind of stick it to them a little bit because the games were good last year. They were
Were they? I
entertaining,
don't
and
remember.
I remember. Well, one was in November, and it was the Sens' only win in November
Oh
last
yeah,
year.
and
It was
Gustafson
like
got that win. I think it was 6-5
yeah.
or something.
Yeah, it was like Stutzel's first goal or something of the year, and then in Pittsburgh, I think they were down like 4-1 and then stormed back, or 5-1 and stormed back to make it interesting. So,
Okay.
some entertaining games at least, and so maybe it'll be the same this year. I'm not sure, but I just hate the Penguins.
Yeah, same dude.
Yeah,
Can't
yeah,
stand them. It is tough, and having to see them back to back. That yeah, like you said, these are big for the Senators, but man, this could be really bad. Like if the Penguins just
yeah,
decide to totally beat up on the Sens here in both those games, this team, like the playoffs were a long shot for a long time here, but they were at least, you could make the spin zone that if you believe and if you string some wins together here, you got a chance. But it is looking less and less like that. As I'm going to take a quick peek back at the standings, and yeah, Sens
Oh
have
boy.
41 points. They're 9 points out of the playoffs now, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in between them, including the Philadelphia Flyers, who have now passed the Sens.
It's rock bottom right there. Oh, and I'll take the moral victory from tonight because it was a
Yeah,
good game. They played well, and I honestly believe it's not one of those November games for me where they should have won. Like, they legitimately impressed me tonight, which
yeah.
I'm happy about. So we'll look at the positives for next game because, man, we were talking before we got on here, and I can't believe I can't remember the last time I did a postcast where they won. I'm not a curse, but it's just loss after loss for me. It's not good. It's not good. I need to talk about a win with this team.
Yep, and hopefully, Jack, we can get a win in the Ottawa Senators next game, like you mentioned, a home and home up against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And luckily for the Ottawa Senators, they get a bit of home cooking first. Wednesday night on the 18th, they will be up against the Pittsburgh Penguins at 7 Eastern. let's hope they get a win there, as this was a good effort. They raised the bar on will they score a goal. They got that goal, so now we'll raise that bar a little more. I'll raise it to, can they get a point in this one? If they can get it past regulation and lose, I will take that, as that's much better than they've been able to do recently.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, the baby steps. For some reason, we're taking baby
Inch it up
steps.
higher and
So
higher. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us in this episode of the Postcast. Jack Richardson, thanks again for joining me in this one. It is a 2-1 loss for your Ottawa Senators, unfortunately. Another loss to add to the column, and we hope for a better result up against Pittsburgh at home. But for tonight, we say goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Postcast presented by the Locked On Senators podcast. Ross and I will have an episode for you tomorrow, and Mike Rupp will join us. So you're not going to want to miss that interview. Thanks, guys. It's the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.